So I'm really, really excited to introduce to you to what someone I think is an absolutely wonderful leader. He would not tell you that he was a 40 under 40 winner. He would not tell you that his firm has been named the best places to work 4 years in a row, and he will not tell you that they've had the highest growth inside Dale Carnegie of North America over the last 2 years. Please join me in welcoming Matt Norman. You're welcome. Here you go.
I'll never forget sitting in a conference room at this internet company where I was now leading a team. And as I was speaking, my insecurities and negative self-talk started to enter into my mind as I got tense and my thoughts were cloudy. The reason for that was that this company I worked at, it was an exciting and fun culture. It was fast moving. We were innovative. We were on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies list. But it was also a culture that would eat you alive if you showed weakness. People in the company would calculate their words very carefully in meetings, and you were constantly considering your political alliances within the organization. And it was beginning to consume me as I tried to lead within this organization. And in the middle of this meeting, as I was getting tense, I froze. I couldn't keep speaking. I had the floor, everybody was looking at me. I had to get up and leave the room, acting like I was choking on something. And that day began my terror of public speaking. I would hide in my office with my door closed and the lights off. Growing up, I would describe my perspective of my grandfather and my father as admiration, not aspiration. I really admired the relationships that they had. Some people in this room have mentioned that they know my father or my grandfather. They're well respected in the community and have healthy relationships, and I admire that. But I didn't aspire to getting into that business, partially because I think deep down I was afraid I couldn't live up to it, but also because I always viewed coaching people on their relationships and their communication skills as frankly kind of unsophisticated, kind of quaint. I wanted to be a finance major and go into technology. I thought that was cool and edgy. And what I realized is that as I've gotten older is that sustaining productive relationships is actually not very quaint. It's actually pretty complicated. And my original assumptions were way too simplistic about what it takes to improve relationships and improve the way that we communicate. I've also taken on responsibility for refreshing our brand. I have a personal mission to strengthen the brand that has been so successful in the Carnegie organization for 100 years, to help our clients, our market, our own team, to see that this is a relevant, important brand and effort that we do every day. And to do that, in January, I started writing a blog, as Paul mentioned. Now, I asked my wife in January if she would edit my blog, because partially I wanted to do it more in my personal time. I didn't have the confidence yet to consider my blog part of my professional life. I thought it would just be something that I kind of did on the side. And also, I thought it'd be a way for us to share kind of some of my thinking. And my wife is one of the smartest, sharpest, best critical thinkers that I know. I admire her so much, and so I was so grateful that she would read this blog, and for a while, it was really fueling my ego, because she would read the blog and say, wow, now I'm realizing what you do at work, and this matters, this is really cool, and this is really fun to get your insights. Until one night, I remember. It was 11 o'clock at night, and we were standing in our bathroom, and she said, "Your blog is getting in the way of our marriage." And I was defensive. I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Matt, we've spent the last hour editing your blog, and it's a Saturday night. I wanted to go to bed earlier. There were things that I wanted to do." She said, "I feel like we are more business partners than we are lovers." I was defensive in the moment, "Yeah, but you said this was fun, and it was a way to connect." The next morning, I called a trusted friend, Paul Botts, and I asked him to help me think of ways to better structure and the blog. How do I get this done every week without affecting my personal life so much? And he introduced me to an editor that fits my personality perfectly. My wife was grateful. Now she reads my blog every week because she wants to. And our marriage has been restored. And the blog has been blended into what I do professionally and is not impacting me personally in negative ways the way it was. It's helped me to realize that leadership is not so much about what we do. Leadership comes from being who we need to be. And sometimes we need a network of resources to help us to be who we need to be when we need to be there. My experiences in leadership development, personally, have changed many of the assumptions that I had about leadership. When I first started at Accenture, I assumed everything was going to be very predictable. And many of my assumptions have changed, which is why Paul Botts, Paul Dominski, myself, and others decided to research over the last 18 months how leaders grow today. We interviewed leaders to find out how they succeeded through the unpredictable, messy journey of leadership, through the challenges that they face. And I realized in these interviews that my experience is not very unique. We found that leadership development is more than predictable formulas, like 70-20-10, which you may be familiar in the 1980s. It was said that 70% of what helped leaders to grow were experiences, 20% was mentoring, and 10% is traditional books, courses, and study. Sounds very clean and tidy, doesn't it? The reality is that leadership is more personal than that. 4 personal accelerants consistently surfaced in our research. 1, culture. 2, mentors. 3, networks. And 4, confidence. These 4 personal accelerants were what helped leaders to thrive and succeed through challenges. And they are all very personal. I've experienced personally how culture can eat us up or build us up. I've experienced how mentors can improve our self-understanding. I've experienced, and the research shows, that networks help us to deliver and build, they help us to build our capacity to deliver our best work. Networks help us to build our capacity to deliver our best work. And confidence accrues as we learn about ourselves and as we enjoy what we find out about ourselves.
Father, grandfather, what did you learn from your father about how to run this business?
I learned that, I think, two things. One, that leadership and running a company is more about who you are than what you do. And second, my dad had a mantra, which was, and still is, do what's right. Do what's right. People would come to him and ask him for his opinion or his permission, and he would look at him and say, do what's right. And that way of empowering and setting the bar for goodness created the culture that our organization has.
My guess is he also told you to take a Dale Carnegie course when you had problems speaking, too, right?
He was the first person I called.
So what's your relationship today with your grandfather?
Yeah, it's amazing. Probably getting emotional here as I'm talking about it. Yesterday, I called my grandfather on the way to a client meeting in the morning and told him, we talked about this breakfast because I forwarded him your blog. And he just said, I'm proud of what you're doing. And it's that kind of relationship.
So let's think about the future. Several people brought their kids today who are in college or just recently out of college, which is awesome. You can do that in August, right? What advice do you have for these kids?
Yeah, I really believe in the research that we did and the 4 accelerants that we talked about. They're simple. But I really believe that all of us, whether we're starting our career or toward the end of our career, that we need to build and be a part of a culture that lets us be real, be authentic, and be healthy. Mm-hmm. And if we can't fix it, we should leave it. Mm-hmm. I really believe in finding mentors, often informal mentors, creating a sort of a, what did I call it the other day? A patchwork of mentors. Mm-hmm. And third, really making sure that we give and receive in mutually beneficial networks. Mm-hmm. And then fourth, that we are finding ways to build our confidence, and not bravado, but true confidence that comes from self-awareness and regulating the relationship that we have with ourselves that occurs inside our own head.